Hello guys and welcome to a new Wargame video today by me, Vulcan. Today I'm on Kristiansund with a 4v4 and I'm playing with Rangru, Sir Crockett and Slick. I'm playing against Bigfoot for President, Freefall, Gazg and Llama. So, in this particular game, it was pretty epic. There was a lot going on. It's your generic 4v4, lots of troops on the map, and just so we don't get all the pinging from both sides, I'm going to quickly change it to my own perspective. So I started on the right, I swiftly moved over to the left. The idea was that Slick would head to hotel, I would head up to golf on the left side of it. We'd have Rang heading up the right side of the river, and Jed up on the right towards Foxtrot. And we were all on TeamSpeak together, so we had voice communications at this point, but we pointed out certain things here and there with our beacons as we went. I'm using an All Nations NATO deck in this particular game, and it comes with things like Fuchs and Jagd Commandos, Fuchs Milans and Jagd Commandos. I've got like Leopard 2A4s, I've got M1A1 Abrams, I've got Chaparrals, Marder Roland 2s, Jaegers and Fuchs and so on. Lots of really nice units to draw from. My air power consists of Eagles and Ravens, and I think I had something else on my deck as well, but I didn't use them this game. Then for my command vehicle, I've got the VAB PC. I just like them because they're a bit nostalgic from Wargame European Escalation. In all honesty, I would probably recommend a Grizzly CP over a VAB PC, but like I said, just nostalgic reasons for those. Then I've got the AH-1F Cobra on the right here. That's basically going to be there to stop any rushes that come down to the left side of Gulf. Because what we wanted to do was really control this sector. It's all very well equaling out across this map, but this middle sector always becomes a contested. So you've really got to do your best to make sure you control both sides of the river here in order to make the most of it. And I've got these buildings just here which work really well with the Jagd Commandos in order to poke at any armor coming down this road. So I've started now with a VAB PC. I've got one Marder Roland 2 and I've got one M48A1 Chaparral. I've got a Gazelle AH1 for recon with an AH-1F Cobra, and I've got 4 Fuchs Milans with Jagd Commandos in them and a Leopard 2A4. Quite a heavy hitting start there. So I begin to move up my Gazelle AH1 to reveal what's coming down the road towards me. Because I ideally want to get the Jagd Commandos into these buildings, but it's pretty unlikely that I'm going to be able to extend that far. Either way, a MiG-23P comes in, very powerful aircraft, shoots down my Gazelle H1, no problem, swiftly follows with a shot onto my AH-1F Cobra, and then proceeds to shoot down my Phantom 2. That was the third aircraft I was thinking of when it comes to my deck. I have 2 Phantom 2s on my deck. So, with all of my air cover pretty much shot down instantly and my recon gun, I try and sneak these Fuchs Milans all the way up to the buildings up here to see if I can get away with hiding anything in there. As soon as I see armor on the road, I drop off my Jagd Commandos and I manage to take care of one of their AA. But they drop out some motor strelky from some BTR 60 PBs and they engage with my Fuchs Milans and Jagd Commandos. My Jagd Commandos are no longer in line of sight and probably wouldn't stand a chance against the motor strelky, so I swiftly move them off to the left to keep them behind this heavy cover. Now I don't want to lose this Fuchs Milan, so I begin as quickly as possible to retreat that, because it becomes useful later on. Slick's bumped into some heavy resistance on the left, but with his combined forces of Marder 1A2s and Panzer Grenadiers alongside his Flak Panzers and AMX-13 Harpons, he's done a good job of taking control of this sector. Now over on the right is a different story altogether. Napalm really stopped Crockett's advance, and he has his 3 Abrams left harassing the troops on this side. Needless to say, they don't last very long being kept out in the open like that with HGMs coming in and hitting these Abrams in the side. Slick brings in more reinforcements of Marder 182s to clear out the rest of this sector and then makes his defense on this hill. I use this reinforcement point to bring in my M48A1 Chaparral and Marder Roland 2 to bring in extra air cover for Gulf. And Crockett stopped his advance with his M1 Abrams still fighting out up on the hill. Ideally, it would have been good to retreat these so they wouldn't get taken out by the overwhelming amount of HGMs arriving. But he has got backup line here of Legion and AMX-13 Harpons with a couple of AMX Rolands to help out. A couple of Mirage SFs coming in. These are really nice planes with good 400 kilogram bombs. Each of them have 8 400 kilogram bombs, and they pretty much destroy anything that gets caught in their carpet bomb. Meanwhile, Rangru has managed to get his men into these buildings on this side, but he's being harassed heavily by OT-64Cs with their HGMs, and they are accompanied by an OT-65RL Recon, but not for long, as Rangru's AH-1T Sea Cobra takes out with an HGM. So we see the UAZ that has captured this sector for the enemy, giving them a slight advantage at the beginning of the game. I've got an Eagle flying around, trying to cover the air while we take control of this sector, and then I dive my Eagle to kill the UAZ to neutralize the sector once again. So, shot down that aircraft, then swiftly moved it in. Unfortunately, the Eagle died taking out the UAZ, but I still had another one on deck for air superiority, so I wasn't too concerned, and I think it was worth making that advantage at the beginning of the game. So now my M48A1 Chaparral and Marder Roland 2 are finally getting over to the right. And then I've got my M113A1s with assault engineers heading up in order to push through this tree line towards any infantry that may be left. So I've managed to get this Fuchs Milan out of there. This is the one that was being heavily hit by the Motorstrelki. It's got 3 bars of health left, somehow managed to survive. But it's worth keeping these things alive because they come as veteran units. So I don't want to lose them really. The AGMs are actually pretty effective on those vehicles, even though their stock statistics aren't great. So I have a ground recon ferret coming across. He's trying to hide here. Meanwhile, my Chaparral has a go at shooting down the Mi-24V that arrives. That gets hit by one of the Chaparral shots. And then I move forwards the Marder Roland 2 behind the cover of this tree line, sneak it up, then peek it out and shoot that down. There we go, and boom. No more any Mi-24V. With Motorstrelki advancing onto my Yank commandos, I bring them back from here because these are no good at fighting in close combat because they only have assault rifles. They don't even have a machine gun to rely on. Rangru's still dealing with this advance of AGGMs. Fortunately, his Delta Force and Riflemen are more than enough to take care of that with the help of the MBT-70s. Now, the MBT-70s, if you didn't know, have a main gun. They have a SACLOS missile system plus a 20mm autocannon. Anything that comes into close range of them will die very quickly. Meanwhile, on the left, Slinks started to travel down the hill into this forest area with some Panzer Grenadiers and Marder 182s, and he's got a couple of Challengers which are retreating from heavy HGM fire. And now my M113A1s are travelling up ahead of my assault engineers to find out what's there for when my assault engineers come in, try and take out the units. Now, what was kind of annoying was they used a lot of these BTR 60PBs in order to try and take out my assault engineers, and alongside that they also use some heavy artillery. One shell lands right in the middle of my two squads and wipes it out instantly. Pretty unlucky shot there, but to be honest, my assault engineers probably wouldn't have done much to scratch those BTR 60 PBs anyway. So Crockett's had to retreat on the right, set up defensive positions along Delta. Rangru's been holding off against the push into his sector up this forest, and meanwhile I'm trying to get in some troops that can do the same to them on this side. So I do have a Leopard 2A4 here, and this is going to come in handy later on to attack some of the fortified positions, but most of my troops at the moment are Jagd commandos, which are set up in these buildings to provide HGM support, plus a lot of AA. Got 2 Marderona 2s and 2 M48 A1 Chaparrals, and I've got a Raven coming in to try and take out some of the enemy's AA. So there's an OSA sitting in this bush, and the Raven misses with its first anti-radar missile, so I bring it round for another shot, but for some reason the Raven doesn't fire. Turns around again, gets shot in the arse, and then I tell him to retreat, just because I don't want him to get shot down before I've used him to his full potential. So with these M48A1 Chaparrals running low on missiles, plus the Fuchs Milans, I have brought in some MD Jupiters to provide some resupply for these squads. Also fix up these Jagd commandos and give them the extra HGMs they need to keep their defensive positions. Meanwhile, we've got Slick with some Panzer mortars, which have nice 105mm mortars, and they destroy the APCs that originally took out my assault engineers. Actually, they're 120mm, not 105. So with the Fuchs Milan still positioned in this area, I'm using it to basically try and snipe out some units, but Rangru's Thunderbolt beats me to the bullet and manages to kill an OSA plus an Mi-24V that was grounded behind the lines. I have no idea why that was on the ground there, but didn't survive very long after all. So now I'm pretty much convinced that they have a UAZ in these bushes, or in these bushes, because it's the only place that they could possibly get a UAZ without us knowing about it. Anywhere up here would be too close to Rangru's Delta Force, and in here I've just sent troops through here, plus the mortar fire probably would have made them move a UAZ. Now, if I quickly go to the neutral perspective, you'll see the UAZ is sitting right here. Luckily enough, missed all of the artillery fire that came in on the left side of this hedge line here, and therefore we missed it for quite a significant amount of time. So now what we're trying to do is wait, gather up our forces for the attacks onto their positions. I brought in a M67A Zippo. That's one thing that I have on my deck that's a bit uncommon. I like to use it to flush out infantry from buildings, plus some more assault engineers to push through the forest and take out the Mostrelki in this position. So I managed to shoot a Ural that was coming down the road, and I've now got some of my own artillery in the form of M109A2 RCHAs. These are heavy American artillery, really awesome for pinpoint precision attacks. Maybe not as pinpoint as I'd like, but very useful for harassing the enemy and causing devastation when an artillery shell lands next to something quite armoured. It will do a significant amount of damage. So bring up a couple of AH-1S Cobras to try and discover where this UAZ is. Now one of them gets shot down pretty quickly because he comes into range of Mostrelki, and then I've got my second one who I managed to get out of range of the enemy AA pretty quickly, and then actually use the AH-1S Cobra to kill the OSA, which gets left out in the open all alone. So my Zippo down here managed to get sniped by an HGM on this side, the Sturm, and both of my M113A1s also got killed. So I've only got the assault engineers left, and thankfully with some artillery support from the left from Slick, I'm confident enough to push up the assault engineers into this area. I've also got my own artillery hitting as well. Managed to shoot down a MiG here, flying through all our AA. Got my 2 chaparrals on this side. They're not going to miss if they've got basically 4 missiles each firing at those airplanes. What I swiftly see though is a BMPT. These are the ultimate infantry killer tanks, and I'm running 2 lots of assault engineers with napalm rockets at it, and you can see that that doesn't end very well as the BMPT engages my forces. Now Crockett brings in 2 Mirage SFs, and you can see that swiftly deals with a lot of the troops in this area. Unfortunately one of them got shot down, but we do manage to reveal a UAZ quickly here, which I do spot. Also, Crockett has brought up some Legion with VABs and is beginning to press on the most strokey position in these buildings. Now to support this push, I'm bringing my Leopard 2A4 to the right side so they can fire across into these buildings on the heavy cover. But due to this Mi-35, I'm forced to pull back the Leopard 2A4 so that he doesn't get sniped by HGMs. Now I could have possibly kept it up this way and kept on firing, and that is exactly what I do, just to hold the brunt of the Mi-35 attack. But to complement it, I bring up a Marder Airland 2 and do manage to shoot down this pesky helicopter. But now I have a bigger priority. There's T-72s coming across on the bridge. Now one of the Strela that was with it does get shot, but the T-72 M1CZ is still alive, and thankfully with 3 shots from the Leopard 2A4 I do manage to take this out very easily. Now those T-72s are actually the Czech version of the T-72, and they don't have an HGM to use, so that's why the Leopard 2A4 had such an advantage. Very accurate gun. Now all Crockett's men are now dead, and my Leopard 2A4 got an optical failure and a firing computer reset, and swiftly followed by a weapon jam and stabilization malfunctioning. So it was time for him to retreat, and I took him back into this forest area in order to let those debuffs count down. In the meantime, I've brought up a Lynx AH-7 TOW 2 that comes in and snipes a BMP-2 nicely, and then I move that off to the left so that it doesn't get shot down by any sneaky AA in the area. Throughout this game I've got to compliment Slick for his use of Fernspar for recon. These Fernspar here really revealed a lot of the troops on this side, including the OSA, AKM and the T-64B, and we can also see the Ural. They're basically, most of them are being spotted by this Fernspar squad right here. And the rest on towards this side are probably being seen by either my Fuchs Milan or the Leopard 2A4 or even my Ferret. But these Fernspar are doing a jolly good job of keeping up the recon on this side. Also, he's got a couple of recon squads up here, Fernspar, that went all the way around the mountain and keeping an eye on the rest of the area. Rangru brings in a A-10 Thunderbolt to kill a couple of the units in this area. He gets shot down, but we do manage to neutralize Gulf and make it our own with a CV at the bottom on the right side. This is well covered though by many riflemen and Delta Force. A nice napalm strike would have done this forest over, but it didn't look like throughout the entire game that they had anything anything like that on their decks, so we managed to get away with it quite alright. The only other thing that was really a risk was general artillery, but without corrected shot, they weren't going to be too great. So now I've brought in a resupply helicopter. This is just sitting behind here repairing the Leopard 2A4 after its encounter with a few more HGMs than it probably liked. And I've also got more MD Jupiters coming up the road back from the FOB to help out resupply HGMs and so on. Here's another Puma coming in. And I've got AH-1S Cobra back here, Lynx AH-7 Tow 2, both hovering low in these fields so they don't get taken out while I'm not using them. They're waiting for an opportunity to go ahead and possibly snipe this T-64B. On the right side of the river, it's Rangru's time to shine. His Delta Force are coming upon engagement by plenty of soldiers approaching under the cover of smoke. Send in my own artillery to try and help out. I do manage to help stun some squads of them while Rangru's riflemen take shots. But Rangru's Delta Force are really the stars of the show here, taking out a significant amount of motor Chelsea as they advance onto their positions. Crockett's also brought up some AMX-40s to help out, while Rangru suppresses the troops on the right side. And the Yak-38 does manage to drop some napalm onto these riflemen just as it gets shot down by a combination of mine and Rangru's AA. I've also brought in an Eagle at this point, but didn't quite get there in time to intercept the enemy aircraft, so I retreat that as it gets hit by enemy AA. So while the push is going on this side, we're really trying our best to recover this position. Rangru's CV is going to be left out in the open if they push too much towards it. Fortunately, he's still got two MBT-70s suppressing the last lot of motor Streltsy in the area. His Delta Force and 4 units of riflemen have got killed. He loses M35 cargoes to the napalm, which unfortunately drive into it. And these riflemen are too stunned at the moment in order to do too much damage to these motor Streltsy. So I really need to help out, and I brought over an AH-1S Cobra, and that helped suppress some of the motor Streltsy squads. And then my Lynx AH-Tow 2 goes for a lovely jaunt and comes all the way around the backside of Gulf to the right and fires some HGMs at these T-72s. Now meanwhile, Slick's still softening up the defences on the left with his 120mm mortars. My Lux and Ferret are playing a dangerous game, crossing the fields where HGMs are flying towards them. And I do unfortunately lose this Lux because of it. But with their attack on the right side being pretty successful, I decide it's time for one on the left. My Lynx AH-7 Tow 2 gets into range, starts firing some HGMs at these T-72s, manages to hit one smack bang in the front. Another one follows up swiftly after and destroys that. A third HGM comes in, destroys this T-72, and with help of a Sea Cobra of Rangru's, we managed to take out a third T-72. And after all that, Rangru's CV is pretty much secure. So now I'm advancing onto this position. Unfortunately, my assault engineer is getting taken out by an ambush. napalm rockets not doing too much, but my Fuchs push up to provide some cover fire onto the Motorstrelky in this forest, while my Jaegers split off and go through the heavy cover. I brought up a second Leopard 2A4 to help with anything in these fields. Well, this Leopard 2A4 is trying his luck against some PTUR Conkers at max range. Now, he does manage to get a decent shot onto the Conker squad, but doesn't really do enough. Just about managed to get him away though, with 2 bars of health. So here my Jaegers are pushing up and killing as many Motorstrelky as they can, doing a great job at it. Also taking out a couple of T-55As along the way. Spotted a BRDM-2U coming in to contest the sector of Gulf. And then on the left we've got Slick with a combined force push down the road, plus some smoke cover from the right, trying to mess up their positions in Mike. This consists of Panzer Grenadiers, Marder 1A2s, we've got some AMX-13 Harpons, and Leopard 2A4. With some decent anti-air, this push would have gone so much better, because these Mi-24Vs stay alive for way too long for this push to really have been this effective. Thankfully, because of the autocannons on the Marder 1A2s, he does manage to shoot them down. But I would have expected a lot more of his forces to have survived had he shot down those helicopters sooner. And with some reinforcements of M1 Abrams and Challenger 1s, does deal a good enough amount of damage in order to get rid of the enemy in Mike. They're still harassing Rangru and Crockett on the right side of Gulf. Luckily my Jagd Commandos and Fuchs Malans are in range to fire HGMs across the river. My Jaegers have come up and managed to kill off the last Motorstrelky squad in the area, who came out of their cover in order to face my Jaegers, which probably wasn't the best idea. And now, with Rangru and Slick's push on the left, I'm deciding to move forwards my Leopard 2A4 to try and help them out. Now my Leopard 2A4 with the attack move gets preoccupied taking out a couple of Igla squads, but probably helpful nonetheless if we were to use any air cover. And then I continue to push forward the Leopard 2A4 to attack the AA, while Slick's Starfighter comes in and has a go at some of these Mi-24Vs. So now my Jaegers discover that 2 Conquer squads have taken place in these buildings here. I've got my Raven coming in, which manages to kill the Book on the right. He then comes round and manages to get a second snipe towards this Book, which unfortunately doesn't hit. And then I retreat that to keep him alive. Meanwhile, I've got my Eagle flying around to provide some air cover for the Raven, and that's lost quite a significant amount of health. But with me suppressing a lot of the air cover, Rangru has brought along his A-10 Thunderbolt 2, which does a great job at killing even more AA before being hit by a missile from the right. So, Jaegers versus Conkers. I managed to pretty much take out all of the Conkers in this building except from one. One man stays alive and kills my last Jaeger squad, but thankfully with the help of the Leopard 2A4s I managed to kill the Afghansky that was left in the hedge line and the Conker squad left in the building. Now while all that was going on, Rangru and Slick managed to push up into Mike very efficiently, knock out the CV in the area and put us at a +3 lead. So we're currently on 206 points and the enemy on 17 points. So this is a conquest game and we need to get 600 points to win. But we have a significant advantage at the moment, especially after securing Gulf. I've got some reinforcing troops coming up here in order to occupy all these buildings and make it pretty much impenetrable for them to take over Gulf for themselves. The only way they could probably do it now is if they pushed hard from India and then put their CV on this side, but still, Crockett has got plenty of chasseurs and legion in these buildings to stop pretty much any push. So I get my Jagd commandos into these buildings, split up the Fuchs Milans to take up HDGM defensive positions. Then I've got 2 Fuchs with Jaegers heading up towards this building, and 2 Saracens with Royal Marines to occupy this building. So before they go over the edge of the hill and reveal themselves to the tanks sitting on the other side of this building, I managed to just about unload them and run them into this heavy cover. I'm taking position there. They get a couple of really nice shots onto this T-72 and ultimately destroy it pretty quickly. And this gives us an even better position on the right side of this river. So with so much disruption on the left, Slick's going to try his luck with some Alpha Jets and see what he can pick off. While my Royal Marines, which are in a bit of a dodgy position, take a hell of a beating from MA4s and BVP 2s. Now, what would have been a good idea for these Royal Marines is if I turned off their light machine gun, because then they would have remained hidden and they wouldn't have been able to be targeted by the MI4s or the Motor Streltsy and the BVP 2s and so on. But the Royal Marines were firing at the Motor Streltsy, which allowed all of the other heavy fire support to fire upon them. What ideally would have happened is I would have let the Motor Streltsy get close, and then I could have taken them out with the help of the AH-1S Cobras as they arrived. Instead, my Royal Marines are already dead before my Lynx, AH-7 TOW 2 and Cobras arrive. Either way, with that position remaining there for a long amount of time, we do create enough disruption to allow for the kill of a lot of tanks on this side, including pretty much all of the BVP 2s. So I've pretty much set up all my defences on this side. 2 squads of Jaegers here, 2 squads of Jagd commandos. I've got 2 Leopard 2A4s. I've got a few Fuchs Milans, Marder Roland 2s, M48A1 Chaparral, and so on, plus all of the resupply I would ever need. Over here, pretty much everything died eventually, except from 1 Saracen who remained in this hedge line. Now, with Foxtrot being under control of the enemy for the majority of the game, I expected to attack much sooner towards Delta, but they do eventually attack with the help of some smoke. But Crockett saw it coming a mile off, and he's already got 8 units of reservists hiding in these buildings, providing fire onto the KPZ T-55As. At close range, the reservists can actually hold their own with their heat rockets, and he's also got help of his Cassiope with an autocannon at close range, dealing significant damage onto these tanks. Rangru's also brought in his Thunderbolt 2, a couple of them, to destroy some of these tanks. Now, what the enemy probably could have done, where they killed a lot of our forces in Foxtrot at the beginning of the game, they probably should have realised that Delta wasn't going to be that defended, and it definitely wasn't. There was only like 3 squads of Legion and a few other units in the way. They probably could have captured Foxtrot and continued to drive towards Delta. Yeah, they might have overextended, but from our perspective, that would have been their best play. They didn't, and they allowed us to reinforce the right side, and you can see that is exactly why this attack failed. 3 units of Motorschützen is not going to do anything against the overwhelming numbers of reservists that are now defending this area. Basically what we did was what they did, or what they could have done on the left. We took Hotel and we pushed up to Mike because we knew Mike would be the least defended. But at this current moment in time, I've got my Raven come in once again for another lovely kill onto a couple of AA units. And I've also brought up some Lux, Ferret. I've got another M48A1 Chaparral, another Marder Roland 2, Gazelle AH1, AH1F Cobra. These have lovely AG gems to use. And my Leopard 2A4s go all the way up to this area just here. But we're up to 80% conquest points now, with 485 points to their 17. Not much chance of them really pulling back this game at this point, because Slick really did well to lock down Mike soon after they attacked with these large amounts of Panzer Grenadiers and some Flak Panzer Gepards and so on. And now, even with that done, I'm trying to prepare myself to travel up this hill towards Kilo. I don't know what's there, and I'm not going to charge straight at it with some Leopard 2A4s, so it was the recon that would have to come in first. But deciding to try their luck and going for a last-ditch effort, we've got Llama with his BMP-1s trying to make a last-ditch attack onto Delta. All these BMP-1s have Motorstrelke in them. But he makes the big mistake of fast move pushing across this field, and it leaves his Motorstrelke incredibly vulnerable. Rangru is on the case with his Thunderbolt 2s, brings them in, and then he gets a lovely strafing runs onto these soldiers. Kills a lot of them, and if it doesn't kill them, then it definitely stuns them. I've got my M109A2s firing off a salvo to help out against this push. But while this is all going on, the points on our side are still going up. I've got my Lux trying to push his luck up onto the hill to see what's there. He does manage to just about get past these Afghanskis before he gets stunned. They have to reload, and that unfortunately doesn't quite get there. But the Motorstrelke push on this side has been completely quelled. Intruders come in from Rangru and just bomb the hell out of those, while my Raven manages to get himself an extra couple of kills before the game ends. So now my Vux Milans are coming up, pushing on to some of these units, but HGMs don't hit as we win the game. So there we go. A lovely 35-minute and 47-second game. Probably one of the longest games I've commentated on in a while, and I honestly quite enjoyed it. So, you can see our kills losses. Rangru with 2,645 to 2,390 losses. Crockett with 2,840 kills to 2,200 losses. Then you got Slick with the epic push on the left with 3,807 kills, the most on our team, and 2,706 losses. And finally me with 3,047 worth of kills and 1,255 losses. Enemies didn't do so well. Gazcool really not doing too great with 3,441 losses and 3,963 for Bigfoot for President. But either way, good opponents nonetheless. Honestly, it was a little unfair with the fact that we were all on TeamSpeak chatting to each other throughout the game. We could easily provide air cover for each other as the game went on because we were in contact. When you're not in contact with people like that, you're not always assured that you're going to get help from friendly players. So that can be an issue when playing 4v4s and so on. Either way, I think we did a really good job of controlling the map properly, even with Crockett's advance being crushed on the right side of the map at the beginning of the game. But the only really real opportunity for the enemy, I think, was to push back against us opposite to what we did to them. That would have been the only way to make the game at least even for a longer amount of time. Anyway, hopefully you guys have really enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.